in the top 10. The room to be in the conversation.
Yo, what is poppin', y'all? It is your boy, it's Guardy3, and welcome back to the N1 podcast. Of course, I am your host, Brett Gardepede, and right next to me is the basketball guru himself, somebody I absolutely love having on the show every week. You know, my co-host, the best co-host I could ever ask for. It's Mo Betta. Mo, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate that intro. Thank you to everybody who's joining me and Guardy3 live right now on the N1 podcast, powered by the Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you. Let's go.
So, of course, you know how we got to do. We got to start it off like we do every week. We got to talk about some underrated players or teams. So, Mo, why don't you start us off this week? You got an underrated player for us this week?
I actually have an underrated team, I think. And this isn't dependent on their success going forward in the postseason. I'm just talking about appreciating what they've done, considering how dormant the franchise had been for a better part of a decade. And I'm talking about what Mike Brown has done with the Sacramento Kings and what De'Aaron Fox, what Sabonis has done, and then them bringing in a player like a Keegan Murray. I think they've started to build a culture there, and it's an entertaining style of basketball. It's an exciting style of basketball, and they've done it in a way where they've embraced their fan base, so the fans feel like they're part of it too. You know how it goes when the Kings win. What do? What is it? Light the beam, right? So I think that's a big thing. That if you can build culture with your roster, with your franchise, but at the same time make your fans feel like they're part of that process. I think the Sacramento Kings are underrated. And here's the funny thing: this season, Brett, they had to play their way into the playoffs, right, from the play-in, right?
Yeah.
And they're still not. I mean, they're not out of the woods, but they won 46 games. They won 48 games last year, and they were the third seed last year. They only won 2 less games. And the reason why is this particular season, the West was so loaded with teams that had 45, 47, 48 games. It was just it was really a stacked conference. So I don't think that the Kings took a step back. I think the rest of the conference took a step forward. And going forward, like I said, I love what Mike Brown has done. I love what the management team has done. I still think they're a piece away, but if they do something in the offseason, not just in the draft, but maybe through a trade or something like that, pair somebody with Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. I think what they need, I think Sabonis should be the third option. I think they need someone to come in to be the second option for De'Aaron Fox. I think that's the only thing that's missing from making them a legit title contender. So I just think an underrated franchise for what they've done recently is the Sacramento Kings.
I think the big things that I want to see the Kings do is Fox has to get back to attacking. For sure. One thing I think the Kings for sure need to do this offseason is I think it's time for them to they need to find a Harrison Barnes replacement. Harrison Barnes regressed really hard from between last year and this year, and it's astounding just how far that he's regressed. Like, you watch him, and he's out there doing his best Tony Snell impersonation. He's doing a lot of cardio. He's putting up 1 of 10. And like I said, last week I mentioned it, right? My boy, Nate over there at Hoops Temple, he put out a TikTok talking about Harrison Barnes. And the one stat I found staggering to me, it is he has less blocks than Jalen Brunson and less assists than Michael Porter Jr. So he's not swinging the rock. He's not really guarding the perimeter. Like, I'm not sure what he does besides stand in the corner and just kind of brick threes at this point.
Right. No, I'm with you. I actually agree with that assessment. I would just say this. As far as the assist, he's not going to have a high assist because he's not the first, second, or third option on that team. He's the fourth option. So he stands in the corner a lot of times, Brett, and doesn't touch the ball. And when he does touch the ball, he's been awful from behind the arc. He doesn't play aggressive. It's in a lot of ways. I think that Harrison Barnes, even though he's a few years older, his career and his downfall, it mirrors what's happening with Andrew Wiggins.
That's that Golden State Warriors curse, apparently.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, this is my the toughest part of every week is figuring out an underrated player, and maybe now is the time to talk about him because there's one guy who I think fit the bill, but he got a massive contract in Charlotte for 5 years, 120 million. So he had a lot of haters for the next couple of years after that, but I think people are finally starting to see how great Nicholas Batum is. Now, you saw him last night. He was crazy good for the 76ers. But people don't realize Nicholas Batum has just always been a really good basketball player. Unfortunately, he's got that really big contract. Good for him. Not great for public perception. But at the end of the day, people are like, oh man, Nick Batum, he's really good. He's always been at about the same level of talent. You leave him open, he's going to make you pay. He's a great secondary facilitator. He has no problem moving the ball. And he'll bust his butt on defense. So I'm glad he's finally getting the recognition after last night's game because I think for so long, Nick Batum has just been so underrated and flying under the radar for a lot of teams.
I think Batum has been a good player. I think he's been a really good player. It's difficult when you get a big contract because then people look at you and they think of because you got a big contract, you have to be an all-star or a superstar to be relevant or have an impact. I think everywhere he's gone, he's had a positive impact. Even with the Clippers, I don't think they wanted to lose him, but because they were in love with James Harden, he was one of the guys that came over in the trade. I agree with you. I think he's always been a productive and a very good player. He's also been a very good and versatile defender on that side of the ball. Last night, if Nicholas Batum doesn't shoot the way he did from behind the arc, the Sixers lose. They go home. That's how big he was for them last night. And I think they're going to need him to make timely threes going forward in the next series because you and I both know Embiid's going to get doubled and tripled at times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. By the way, shout out Gene. Thank you for hopping into the comment section for sure.
Appreciate you.
I think that's a perfect transition to last night. We had 2 play-in games. One, of course, it was the Lakers and I almost said Lakers and Kings. Oh, I'm getting mixed up, Mo.
No, you're good.
There we go.
We had the Heat and Sixers.
Heat and Sixers and Hawks and Bulls. I got my teams really mixed up for a second there. I'm not sure why. So the best game of last night for sure. That Heat Sixers game was absolutely phenomenal. It was a defensive struggle. I love a good old fashioned defensive struggle. Everybody struggled. Hero struggled. Butler struggled. And it looks like he's missing the next game. Embiid and Maxey struggled. So it really turned into a battle of the role players and benches and see what team can squeeze more out of their benches. And that's where Nick Batum and company really came up clutch.
That was the difference in the game. Think about this. Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero, I think they go something like, I want to say 16 for 45. Embiid and Maxey weren't much better. I think they were something like 13 for 35. Like none of the big stars shot the ball well. Now, to Embiid's credit, he did make a couple of timely threes late in the game, but Maxey didn't get off. Jimmy Butler didn't get off. What Jimmy Butler can do that Tyler Hero can't do, though, is he can generate offense by getting to the foul line. So that's why he finished with around 20 anyway. I really thought the guy that kept making the big shots, that kept the Sixers at pace, that helped them get back in it was the guy you'd been talking about. If Nicholas Batum does not have the performance that he has, then it would be Philly playing Chicago tomorrow night. And that's how big it was. So I will say this, though, going forward, if Embiid is going to be what he was last night, that's going to be a problem for Philly. I was hoping that he would look close. He didn't have to be MVP Embiid, you know what I mean, Brett? But he needed to at least be all NBA Embiid. And to me, watching him move, he was laboring. When he had the ball in the restricted area, he couldn't finish. He had no lift. I think that knee, I think that knee is still a problem. And I actually think the more that he plays, I don't think it gets better. I think it gets worse. So I on the morning show, I said if Embiid's healthy, Philly would win. And then I said, I think that Philly's going to win the series. Let me amend that. I don't think Embiid's healthy. And if Embiid's not healthy, Philly's not going to win the series.
Gene S, is that Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero stuff real? I saw the report of an
That
altercation between those two. It did not sound real to me.
really think about this. Jimmy Butler comes on the plane, and Jimmy Butler is saying 9 for 27, 9 for 27 over and over. And Tyler Hero gets angry and takes a swipe. And then Jimmy Butler goes 9 for 28. That's hilarious because he missed him. Like,
Nah,
I don't know if it's real, but I know that is on par with Jimmy Butler's personality.
does it sound like Jimmy Butler? Absolutely. The only thing
Absolutely.
that doesn't feel Jimmy Butlerish to me is
That he
I
didn't
think
beat Hero's ass. Yeah.
is I don't think he would intentionally do that right now because even if he doesn't play, you still need Hero to be locked in for Chicago Friday. So that's kind of why I'm skeptical because I'm like, okay, Jimmy's aggressive. He's always kind of been like that, starting altercations. That wouldn't surprise me. But I don't think he would go and start something right now when he needs to be Tyler Hero to be locked in for tomorrow. So
I don't know. I think that Jimmy Butler was saying something that I don't think he was the only one saying it. I think Bam Adebayo only took 9 shots. Why is Tyler Hero taking 27 shots? He's not the number one option. Why? And he wasn't shooting good. Like he took 27 shots. Like, bro, move the ball. Clearly, you don't have it tonight. Bam can't get some shots. Get the ball to anybody. At that point, when I was watching the game and the Sixers were making their run, I think you said it too. Tyler Hero was the Sixers' sixth man.
yeah, I said it last night. I'll say it again. Tyler Hero was almost the best player on the court for the 76ers last night.
Garbage, complete
That,
garbage. Look, I don't know if that stuff was real, but like I said, it 100% tracks with Jimmy Butler's personality.
no, it really does. I just don't know if he'd do it at this moment in time. That's the only part that's and after watching such an instant classic mo of a game, a really fun game. Yeah, I was in a Discord with our boy Kyle Edwards, and he called this before it even started. A minute into this game of the Hawks Bulls, there's a message in the Discord from Kyle. So the Hawks are going to spend the next couple hours wasting our time, huh? They absolutely succeeded. Oh my goodness, I don't even know how to describe the Hawks last night because they were just DeAndre Hunter wasn't doing anything. I got beef with Trae Young after last night. Credit to DeJounte Murray, all sitting there really busting, trying to keep them in that game, but
Dejounte Murray, Brett, is a pro's pro. I'm watching Trae Young, and he spent most of the time when he was on the floor whining to the refs. Mind you, now Trae Young still got to the foul line 11 times. I guess he was whining because he thought he should have got to the ball, to the free throw line 17, 18, 19 times. Because on defense, he didn't do anything. He didn't compete. He didn't try. And that's not unique to the Hawks or to Trae Young. I had this conversation earlier today. You remember a couple of years ago when the Hawks beat the Sixers and they went to the conference finals, right?
yeah.
That is literally the peak of the Trae Young era. What I said at the time was it's a great run. It is not the start of the Hawks dominating the Eastern Conference, like a lot of people said, like a lot of delusional Hawks fans said. Since then, first round exit, and now they're going home. They couldn't get out the play-in. The Trae Young experience, for all his talent, he can't be the best player on a title winning team. He can't be the best player on a team that gets you to the finals. Like I said, that year was a great run because that great run, it also coincided with the collapse of Ben Simmons. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't know what you do as the Hawks because you know that Quinn Snyder is actually a very good coach. He's actually a very good coach. But their roster construction, it's inept at best. Now, to be fair, they didn't have Jalen Johnson. I think Jalen Johnson is a baller. I didn't realize his injuries were that serious. And they didn't have a Conway who normally splits time with Capella. But still, if Trae Young is just going to come down, jack up shots, and not compete on defense, and then whine to the refs, the outcome wasn't surprising. The best part of the game for me, Brett, even though it wasn't a great game, was watching Kobe White bust anybody Atlanta put on him. Kobe White put on a show where you're like, he must be all NBA. He must be that dude. Because last night he was that guy. Like DeRozan became the second option. And granted, they were doubling DeRozan, but Kobe White, look, he's made such a leap from where he started to where he is now. I'm excited to where he goes next. I thought after the Hawks lost and Chicago was going to play Miami initially, Brett, I said Miami's probably going to find a way to beat Chicago. But now you find out that Jimmy Butler's out with a knee injury and he's not playing. I think Chicago's going to beat Miami. I think they're going to end up in the 8th spot. Which, by the way, Brett, nobody's happier for that than the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Jimmy always finds a way against Boston. Mo, Gene would like to request that you stop bringing up the Ben Simmons meltdown. That's bringing back some very bad memories, which is fair.
It's bad memories for me, too. I had money on the Sixers.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, the real question is, what happens next with Trae? Because a lot of people are saying, it's time to trade him. And I need to do this real quick, though, Mo. I have to do a little rant here because I see this everywhere. All because Victor Wembanyama would cover up Trae Young's weaknesses perfectly. That doesn't make Trae Young a perfect fit for Victor Wembanyama.
Thank you.
Like, my biggest issue with Trae Young is really his lack of off the ball movement. And I think that's what separates him from a lot of these elite guards. Like, we can talk about shot selection, but I also think he'd get a lot of easier shots if he would just move off the ball. Like, I think I moved more in this podcast than Trae Young did off the ball all last game.
For sure.
And
I love that.
I think Trae Young is starting to fall into this category for me where he needs to be a big fish in a small pond, go somewhere where everybody's going to love him, but that aren't actually serious playoff contenders, where he can just ball out and hoop. Because I think it's pretty clear that he's not the number one guy in a playoff team. Is he the number 2 guy? I'm kind of questioning that too, because he doesn't bring a lot of qualities that a lot of these number 2 guys would. He's too ball dominant for it. So, but I really need people to stop because, yes, Victor could cover up Trae's weaknesses, but that does not mean the Spurs start shipping out everything to get Trae Young.
No, and that's not really fair to say he would cover up Trae weaknesses. What would happen is Trae would get beat off the dribble. Victor would come over to get to Trae's man. Trae's man would dish to Victor's man. Victor's man would score, and then everybody would be looking at Victor like, what are you doing? So I don't think he covers anything up. He's such a poor defender, he would hurt Victor. And on offense, he would hurt Victor. You let it out. You laid it out perfectly. Trae Young, who is very talented, cannot play without the basketball in his hand. He does not cut. He's not setting a pick. He's not fading. He's not coming off a pick and pop. He has no ball. If he didn't have the ball in his hand, there's no movement. Literally, there's no movement. I'm watching you right now, and you still have moved more than Trae Young has moved basically all year. So I hear people talking about him going to San Antonio. I hear about the crazy rumors about him going to the Lakers. No, thank you. No, thank you. Look, I know Jeannie and Rob, they love big names. Do not do it. Do not. You will regret it. Don't do it. I don't know the path forward for Atlanta. Brett, let me ask you this: take away San Antonio or the Lakers. Do you really think that's his future? That big fish, small pond? Like, so basically, to me, you're saying he should probably go to Portland, right, where he can just put up numbers. You know, 35 points, 10 assists. People talk about how great he is. His team ain't going to make the playoffs, but he's going to have incredible numbers. Is that what his lot in life going forward in his career is, or do you think because he's still a young player? I think he's 26. He can't alter his game to a degree. He can't. I guess you have to be able to self observe and really look at what you are and what you aren't. What he isn't, and I know that in this current NBA, if you have a big season, immediately you're labeled a superstar. What he isn't, he's not a superstar. He's an all-star, but he's not the kind of guy that can carry a team to an NBA finals. And you brought up a great point. If you paired him with Kevin Durant, if you paired him with Anthony Edwards, would that be a great pairing? Or by midseason, would Anthony Edwards want to choke him? So I don't know the path forward for Trae Young. I actually think he's going to end up staying in Atlanta because I don't think the market for him is as high as most people think.
Yeah. By the way, Alex, that would be perfect for Wemby. You just need somebody that's going to find him and get him the ball and can create for themselves. But make sure they're a willing passer.
Right.
But yeah, you kind of nailed it to me. Like, I think the best path for Trae Young moving forward would be a smaller market team, maybe like what Dame did with Portland for so long. Went over, he put up monster numbers, everybody loved him, and nobody had any expectations for him because you knew the team wasn't good enough to really compete anyway, right? And I think he needs to go to a situation like that, and that's really where he'll take off. He can make money, put up big numbers, and just kind of be the superstar in a small market that it seems like he wants to be. Because I think he can still change his game, but the issue I'm seeing is normally if you're going to change and adapt your game, there's at least some signs there. You're at least start showing something by now. And it just hasn't. Like, could he? Sure, we've seen a really late career, we've seen really late guys bloom in their career, guys like Kyle Lowry, but even like Kyle Lowry would, show flashes of what he could be. Trae Young doesn't really show any flashes of moving off the ball or anything that would make him a great number 2 option or on a title team. So could he? Yes, but count me skeptical.
I am too. And this isn't me. Well, you don't like, I don't like his game or how he, when he's on the floor, he just seems so one dimensional. So no, I don't like his style of play because I don't think it's a winning style of play. I don't. But I'm with you. Could he evolve and become a better all around? Like, what if his numbers came down, Brett, and instead of averaging 30 plus, he averaged 19 a game, 8 assists, shot a higher percentage, but moved more without the ball in a different role? I know that somehow that would make him seem lesser to fans that are not really watching, but in my eyes, I would see the improvement. I would go, he's playing winning basketball. Other guys are getting involved. It's not like the Hawks don't have talent. I just don't think they have an identity or a direction. Or maybe it's just that their whole identity since he's been there, it's been the Trae Young show.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if he dropped down to like 19 and 10 or 11, he'd have the same impact as that's like the numbers Tyrese Halliburton's putting up. And even though he's putting up lesser numbers, there's a reason why people are kind of like, yo, Halliburton might be better than Trae Young. Yep, that's fair. Trae isn't a winning basketball player. Yep, that's true too.
Agreed.
Now, Mo, I saw you posted a start bench cut that I wanted to bring on here real quick.
Oh man, you know what? You would be amazed. No, maybe you wouldn't because you know the world we live in. You would be amazed at how many people said to cut LeBron. I don't understand that, but whatever. Like, to me, I'm just thinking with my basketball mind and what you really know. I know how beloved Kobe is. I'm a diehard Laker fan. I've lived through Kobe. I've watched him grow up. I remember as a rookie, this guy shooting 3 air balls in a playoff game, but it impressed me that he had the nerve to raise up and shoot those shots. I get it. Kobe has a cult following. But if you're looking at those 3 players, and I know what KD is and what he is at his very peak. Golden State KD is a more efficient player, but he's not a better basketball player than Kobe Bryant. He's not a better basketball player than LeBron James. He's not. There's a reason why we use the title Golden State KD. Because if you said Oklahoma City KD, you wouldn't be confused. You wouldn't even consider taking him. You wouldn't say, what about Brooklyn KD, or what about current Phoenix KD? He's the same player. The difference was he was on a loaded team and he had less responsibility. Kobe Bryant, like LeBron, for the better part of their careers, they've been the man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is to me, this was easy, but I saw this in a couple other places and look at the comments, and it was like, oh, cut LeBron, cut Kobe. I'm like, why are we doing that? To me, this is simple. You start LeBron, you bench Kobe, you cut KD. A lot of people mistaken with LeBron, and almost people mistaken versatility for effectiveness. So they'll be like, oh, KD has a bigger bag. He can shoot a one-legged hezzy fadeaway over 2 guys. LeBron can't do that. Yeah, LeBron just can get to the rim easier and get you 2 easy points. And honestly, my layup is worth the same as your 15-foot dirt. So to me, I think that's the big misconception with LeBron. It's they mistaken versatility for effectiveness.
Yeah, thank you. So is KD the more skilled scorer? Yes, yeah. But in terms of impact on the game, LeBron James can come down and he can drive through the basket, do the same move, and get to the rim and score 4 or 5 times in a row. It might not look as polished as KD, but like you said, it's every bit as actually it's more effective because it's not a jump shot. There's a very good chance when he attacks the basket, he has a chance to get an and one. Kevin Durant's incredibly, I think a lot of times, like you said, people confuse skill with impact, and it's not the same thing. Anthony Davis is a much more, I've said this before, he's more skilled than Giannis. He's not more impactful than Giannis. There is a difference. And I think people need to realize that instead of getting caught up with, maybe if we broke the NBA down to like a game of around the world, then that would work. If they played a game around the world, Anthony Davis would beat Giannis. But if you put them on the floor with 8 other guys, Giannis is the better player.
Yeah, not to mention this is Miami LeBron. This is LeBron that's also shot 40% from 3, so he's elite at the rim and he's elite from deep. There really just wasn't an answer for it.
And he's all NBA defense, LeBron, then, right? On Miami?
Yeah, first team.
Right. So you're getting and that's the thing. Kobe and LeBron, they can be dominant on offense, but they were both first team all NBA defense. KD's a pretty good defender, but he ain't never made an all defensive team. And it's not because he got robbed. He just isn't that good a defender.
Yeah, no, I agree. I saw that post and I just found that so weird that so many people were arguing to cut LeBron or Kobe. I'm just like, there's no way.
Brett, there's an insanity. I see just as many people say cut Kobe or cut LeBron. And I was like, so most people are saying no matter what, KD is the guy that's definitely on that you would keep. Like no matter what, whether you start him or you bench him. That drove me crazy. Like, really? Because we can break this down real simple. If you send the 10 greatest players of all time, you know who's not in the top 10? KD.
Yeah, that is an easy way to put it. Well, Mo, I figured we could talk about some of these other playoff matchups. I think we got some fun ones. So why don't we start off with our play-in game? So we got in the East, we have the Bulls versus Miami. Who do you got winning that one, Mo?
If Jimmy Butler's not going to go, I think it's going to be a struggle for the Heat to generate offense. Even if Tyler Herro doesn't go 9 for 27 again, I think that the combination of Kobe White, along with DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic, if those three can get off, and then you've got Caruso doing his thing defensively, I think Chicago wins. Like right now, Kobe White is so much in his bag. I'm trying to wonder who the Heat are going to put on him because I don't think anybody can guard him in space.
They're the only thing the Heat are really going to have to do. They're going to have to try to play great team defense, which they're capable of doing. That they did a lot of great defense yesterday. The team defense to slow down Embiid and Maxey.
The zone was good. The zone was good.
Without Jimmy Butler, I don't see the Heat overcoming this one. And honestly, it almost feels like it's the same tale over on the West, unfortunately, right? Pelicans Kings. Zion has the greatest game of his career. Looks exactly like this generational talent that we were promised. And then he leaves with an injury, and it does not sound like he's going to be in tomorrow. So I'm like the same with you in the East. Over at the West, I got the Kings because unfortunately, I think the loss of Zion is just going to be really deflating for them.
They still have talent, but there's something going on with Brandon Ingram, right? When the coach benches you in a close game, the last 7 minutes of the game, there's a problem. There's something going on there. It's obviously there's some kind of conflict. I don't know if it's with the coach or maybe it's with the team, but there's something going on with Brandon Ingram. I think that the one thing we can say about Sacramento that I talked about earlier, that Kings team, they're connected. They're one. Think about this, Brett. They're missing Kevin Huerter. They're missing Malik Monk. Combined, those guys give you 25 points and like 7 assists. And they're missing that. And they're still finding ways to win. I think ultimately the combination of Fox and Sabonis, it'll be too much for the Pelicans. I think the Kings win, get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And we've seen CJ McCollum step up in the playoffs a couple times, when he was in Portland, and there's even a couple nice games with the Pelicans, but this year I'm not really expecting a big CJ game, unfortunately. Every time I expect one, it's 4 of 15, 3 of 12. He just looks like at this point he's better situated playing with second units than first units at this point in his career.
And that's not a bad thing, Brett. I think CJ could be terrific as a team 6-man. I think the Pelicans are in desperate need of a pure point guard. I like Alvarado. Alvarado's not really a pure point guard. He's just small, but he gives you a burst of energy. He plays. He gets up into you defensively. He's disruptive in the passing game, and more importantly, when he pushed the ball, that's when the Pelicans got back into it because Zion can play fast. I know he doesn't look like it, but when he played fast, Brett, and he's decisive, and he just attacked. I was so impressed with him. Like I said, I think he played the best basketball game I've ever seen him play in the NBA, and he did something really smart. LeBron's given him 8 to 10 feet. AD did the same thing, and what Zion did was he made up the difference between the two, and he just attacked them. He got up momentum, and they were flat-footed. He was eating them alive, and of course, he ended up getting injured. And in a lot of ways, that game and then that injury, doesn't that encapsulate Zion Williamson's NBA career so far?
Yeah, very much so. The one thing that really impressed me about Zion is, everybody thinks of him like this powerful, violent finisher, but he showed a lot of finesse with a lot of these finishes, like being able to go up and lay it softly up over LeBron and AD. Like his burst and attack to the rims are violent, but when he gets in the air, he has a really nice touch. That was really impressive to me. The way he was able to just change finishes and everything and get over AD.
And he can hang in the air. Like you realize a man that big, he doesn't just elevate, he actually hangs in the air. He's got hang time. A couple of times he actually went under AD when he elevated. Like I just thought he was so impressive, so aggressive. It shows you what he could be. Everything that people talked about, what Zion could be potentially, I saw that in that game. He needs to bottle that up going forward when he comes back next season. He needs to be that aggressive all the time because when he's aggressive, he's damn near unguardable.
So why don't we move on to this first round real quick? We'll stay in the West. Kings or Pelicans, whichever team comes out, do you see either team having a shot to upset the Thunder in the first round?
I think the Pelicans, or I'm sorry, I think the Kings in OKC could be one of the more entertaining series in the first round. That could be offense up and down. That could be really fun to watch because what you're going to have is you're going to have the versatility, the skill, and the quickness of a Chet Holmgren going up against the power, the strength, the playmaking ability of Sabonis. Sabonis is going to have the advantage in the restricted area, but what I like about Chet is he can take him away from the basket because he has range. He can put the ball on the deck. I think Oklahoma City has more talent. When you look at Chet, when you look at Shea Gildress, and then you throw in a Jalen Williams, they have more firepower. I expect them to win the series, but I don't think Sacramento goes out without a fight. I think it's a 6-game series.
Yeah, no, I agree. And plus, not to mention, it is a big bonus for the Kings for actually, being there, right? Because they made a nice run last year.
They
So
did.
they have experience under the bright lights. And especially if Keegan Murray can shoot as well as he did, that'll be huge. But I agree. I think the Pelicans pretty much go a gentleman's sweep. I think the Kings can make it more interesting. I think the Kings can take them to 6 or maybe even 7, but
Yeah,
I
look,
can see the Thunder taking care of business in round 1.
let me ask you this because you brought it up. If the Kings, if it goes to a game 7, because that's a completely different monster, and it doesn't matter whether you have home court or not. Do you think there's a way the Kings could win that? Because remember, the Pelicans, they're a young team. They're the number 1 seed. They would be playing with all the pressure in the world. Like you look at this series in the matchup that it is, and most people would say there's no way this is a 7-game series. But yet, if they found themselves in a game 7, do you think that would bode well for them, or would Sacramento have the advantage because they would be playing with house money?
I honestly think that would benefit Sacramento. I think that's where the playoff experience would be huge. Do I think the Thunder could still pull it off? Yeah, that team's immensely talented, but there's definitely a benefit to, being there and being in those moments. Like, I think the Kings did play in a couple game 7s last year.
They did. They did.
So
They played the Warriors.
Yeah, so that's a huge benefit to them for being there and knowing really what to expect and knowing the pressure that comes with a game 7. So if it makes it to a game 7 at that point, that'll be a lot of fun because who knows who comes out on top then.
Yeah, I think it's a toss-up if it comes out there. Right.
Well, next we got your team series. Got the 2-seeded Nuggets, 7-seeded Lakers. Mo, how do you see this one going?
Well, so after we beat the Nuggets, we're gonna rest for a little while. No, I'm kidding. This is what I believe. The Lakers got swept last year by the Nuggets. I think this particular season, even though where they're seated, I think this is at least a 6-game series. I think the Lakers are going to compete. I think they're going to push the Nuggets. But ultimately, what impresses me so much about Denver, and I always say this, I think you acknowledge it too, they don't look like a stacked squad, but they play like a stacked squad. Everybody plays their role. So whether Aaron Gordon has 19 points in game 1 or 7 points in game 2 because they need him to focus more on defensive rebound, they do whatever they need to do to win. And if they're in a close 1-possession game, the 2 most dangerous guys on the floor are Joker and Jamal Murray. I'm going to say the Nuggets win in 6.
Yeah, I felt the funniest thing, Mo. There's a Lakers fan that I saw on Twitter. They're like, this will be a closer series because we're getting Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood back. I'm like, if you're playing Christian Wood, the series is over in 5. Nuggets are destroying that at that point.
Christian Wood, Brett, is the epitome of not a winning player.
He looked great on Houston and Detroit. Yeah, they're not great teams. That's exactly why.
That says something. I want everybody out there to listen. There's a reason why he looked great. He looks great on bad teams, right? No expectations.
Who has the better series, Joker or the Brow? I think it's Joker, and for the Nuggets, if the Brow outperforms Joker, the Nuggets are in trouble.
Yeah.
But there's something about Jokic that anytime the playoffs hit, even though he's an MVP, best player in the world, caliber player in the regular season, he almost just hits a different gear in the playoffs, as we all saw last year. He went into Minnesota. He was hanging. He gave Rudy Gobert, going to be 4-time DPOY, 48-point game. He went to the next man up. He went to Anthony Davis, and he hit ridiculous shot after ridiculous shot. Like, there's something different about playoff Jokic that anytime he steps on the court, and it's that time of the year, next level.
Nah, I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. I think that Anthony Davis' best way to get at Jokic is not his defense. I think his best defense is his offense. I'm not saying AD has to match Joker point for point, but I think he has to be aggressive in making him defend him. So if Anthony Davis can, let's say, average 26 a game, 12 or 13 rebounds, I think that at least gives him a chance to balance up against Joker. And that means that Denver's going to have other guys that are going to have to step up more. Maybe Porter Jr. And look, we said Joker gets better in the playoffs. So does his running mate. Jamal Murray in the playoffs becomes an all NBA caliber player. So to me, again, I expect the Lakers to make this a good series, but I still think the Nuggets are the best team and Joker's the best player. They'll ultimately win.
Yeah, their best defense on Joker is get downhill, get physical with him, get into his body, just try to rough him up a little bit, force him to defend, and hopefully that does enough to tire him out on offense, because at this point we know that there's not really a way to slow him down defensively there.
And you better hope that the referees are not calling it tight, because if you're trying to be extra physical with him and they're calling it tight, he's going to shoot a lot of free throws.
That is fair too. Porter Jr. is nice. I love me some MPJ. And then, of course, this one's interesting because it sounds like our next matchup, 4-seeded Clippers, 5-seeded Mavericks. It sounds like Kawhi Leonard is trending towards playing. For anybody that doesn't know, they found swelling in Kawhi Leonard's knee and they were concerned about it. But now he's trending towards playing. This will probably be the best series out of all of them. It very well could be. Clippers and Mavs, they never disappoint. Mo, what do you think?
I'm gonna spin it this way. I think in terms of the closeness of the games, this will be the best series. In terms of winning and losing, I think the Mavs win in 5. When you tell me Kawhi Leonard's trending to play, you're already telling me he's not healthy. You're already telling me that. Just for the record, when he's 100% healthy, this current version of Kawhi, who's still a terrific player, he can't guard Luka. Paul George can't guard Luka. There's nobody on that roster that can guard Luka or slow him down. He looks at the Clippers and he goes barbecue chicken. He's going to eat them alive. That's if Kawhi's 100%, because if he's healthy, a healthy Kawhi, he can drop 30 or 35 and he can neutralize what Luka does. This is not a healthy Kawhi. The Clippers, this team, Brett, they limped into the playoffs. They were god-awful the last month of the season. James Harden has gone AWOL. They haven't seen a James Harden appearance since the All-Star break. That's how bad he's been the second half of the season. I'm looking at what Kyrie and Luka are doing. I'm looking at the young man Ivy. I'm looking at them bringing in Gafford and getting Washington and getting talented size. They're the better team. I think most games will be close, but I think in those close games, Luka and Kyrie will have the answer. I think this is a 5-game series, and I think the Clippers go home in 5.
Oh yeah, this one's tough. I have the Mavericks winning this one too. I had them in 6. It really comes down to what is Kawhi? How does he look? Because the last time we saw him in the playoffs, I think he played 2 games against the Phoenix Suns. Looked absolutely incredible.
Right.
He slowed KD down and was also giving the Suns like 30, 35 points a game for 2 games. If we get something anywhere near that, then yeah, I'm definitely liking the 6-game series. I still like Dallas. But yeah, Kawhi comes in, he's banged up and he can't hang at all with Luka, and he can't match his production, yeah, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep, unless
And
if Paul George can step up. But
you need Paul George, you need Norman Powell to come out of his slump. Like they have bucket getters on that squad, but they don't run a system. They don't run a system. They play a lot of iso ball. They don't run a system. Look, I like Ty Lue. I think Ty Lue is one of those likable coaches. Brett, the same way that a lot of people over the course of his career have called Doc Rivers a likable coach, right? He's likable. He's a player's coach. I don't want to use the term overrated with Ty Lue, but when people say stuff like he's the best coach in the NBA, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's in many ways, quite frankly, he's a younger version of Doc Rivers. He's milked that one championship for a long time, and he hasn't done anything since. And let's be honest, I don't think I watched that series. You watched that series. They didn't win that series because of great coaching. They won it because a transcendent star literally took it over and won the game, won the series. I'm just saying that he's been with the Clippers for a minute, and you keep saying all these things that he's going to do this, and they don't do anything. If he's going to be the coach that they say they are, then he needs to coach them up and find a way to win this series. It's not. Look, I think the Mavs are much improved on defense, Brett, but you would agree it's not like the Mavs are locking people down, right? Like they compete harder on defense, but they're not a great defensive team. If the Clippers, when you've got Kawhi who can create for himself, Paul George who can create for himself, Harden could create for himself, Norman Powell, I just gave you 4 guys who can create their own shot and for others. They actually have more of those guys than the Mavs do, and they play so disjointed because all they do is take turns playing iso ball. And that's I hear myself saying that, and it's crazy, right? Because on the other side of the floor, isn't that what the Mavericks do? They just do it better.
yeah, the way to really mess with Dallas is move the ball side to side, keep the ball moving, force them in rotation, like beat your initial man and then move the ball. And that's something that I think Dallas does exceptionally well, because it's not like, and I think that's the big difference is Luka will isolate, but he also has the vision and playmaking to spray it across the court and hit his open guys. Kawhi Leonard isn't going to do that. Paul George isn't going to do that. James Harden can do that, but nobody at this point, I don't think enough people respect James Harden scoring enough to really fully unlock his playmaking like he was in Brooklyn and Houston. So I think that kind of neglects that. So yeah, I agree. I think this is the Mavericks series to lose, even though they're the technically lower seed.
Right. This is what we call it's an upset, but it's not really an upset.
And then this is the one I picked for the actual, could be an actual upset alert. We have the Suns and Timberwolves. Now, let me be clear. I've never been very high on the Phoenix Suns, but at the same time, this is a team that can generate points in bunches when they get going, and they can generate points much easier than the Minnesota Timberwolves can. Let me be clear. I still like the Timberwolves in this series. I think that their defense is just miles and miles better, and I think that'll be enough they'll do enough to slow them down and score just enough to come out on top. But man, I think this could very well be a series where we see an upset. If the Suns get hot, like they did last year in the Nuggets series, the Timberwolves don't have a Jokic to counter Jokic and Murray to really counteract multiple stars going off like the Nuggets did to them last year. The Timberwolves have Anthony Edwards, but after that, they would need Karl-Anthony Towns, and this is the same guy who got benched in a 60-point game because his defense was so bad.
This is true. So let's be fair. Are we saying that Karl-Anthony Towns is not a talented player? No, we're not saying that. He actually he made the All-Star team again. What I would say is he's underachieved at the worst times. But here we go. He's not the best player on the team no more. It's Ant's team now. Karl-Anthony Towns is the second option. You could say that when you look at what Gobert does for them defensively and what Anthony Edwards does and Jaden Daniels does, I think Jaden McDaniels is going to get all up in. He's going to be up in Kevin Durant's jersey. He's going to be up in his jersey. I think Anthony Edwards is going to get after I don't know if he attacks Booker because Book can draw fouls. Maybe he'll go back and forth, but I think he'll man up on Beal. I just think that the Timberwolves' ability to get stops along with their size. Don't forget Naz Reid comes off the bench and gives you 15 points and like 7 or 8 rebounds, and he can shoot the three as well. I think the Timberwolves' size and defensive prowess, I think that's the difference in this series. Even if the Suns get hot, when you're saying that Bill gets going, Durant get going, Booker get going, even they can find their spot up shooters. And Grayson Allen drops like a couple of threes here and there. Even if they get hot, to me, that just ensures they win one game. I think this is a 5-game series as well. I don't think the Suns are going to have moments when they score, but their defense is so bad, they're going to make the Minnesota's offense look a lot better than it should. I think Anthony Edwards can get anywhere he wants to on the floor. And even if he's having a bad shooting night, he'll finish with 30 points because he'll shoot 12 to 15 free throws because there's no one on the Suns that can stop him from getting to the rim. So I think they're going to be entertaining games, and Suns fans are going to be excited, and they're going to have a moment, and then reality will sink in, and they're going to go home in 5.
Yeah, honestly, I really wouldn't doubt one name I want to look out for this series because I think you might see him more often than you think. Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Oh, yes.
He's much more mobile. He's much more versatile defensively than Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not saying he's going to start over him, but at the same time, if Cat's struggling, I wouldn't be shocked if they started pulling Cat earlier and earlier in games, so they can have somebody that can actually maybe stay in front and kind of contest KD's shot or
that's fair.
Switch out onto Booker. So I think that'll be an interesting chess match.
I think so. Don't forget that the last couple of times they played, Phoenix tried to target Mike Conley because of his size. They went after him and they were effective doing it. So I think they'll try that as well in this series. But I don't think they're going to make a living off of attacking Mike Conley. And I think it works both ways. When Mike Conley goes pick and roll with Gobert or he goes screen and roll with Cat, he's a terrific player coming off of both of those. So I just think, minus the lack of firepower, I just think the Timberwolves are the better basketball team.
And Alex, I haven't heard anything about Cat's injury really bothering him. I think he's not 100% up to speed in terms of conditioning, but I don't think the injury's really bothering him much right now.
In a perfect world, he prefers to just step back and shoot threes anyway.
Yeah. And of course, in the East, do we see any team pushing the Celtics past a sweep between Miami and, especially if Jimmy Butler's not going to be there?
Look, I honestly thought that if Miami played them, even this version of the Heat, there's a mental hurdle that the Heat have that the Celtics struggle to clear, right? They just do. And maybe it's that Jimmy Butler, even though he's not as talented as Jason Tatum, he's got that mental. He's tougher. He's more of a dog. Tatum's a lot of things, but nobody calls him a dog. But that's not going to happen, right? We assume since Jimmy Butler's out that Chicago is going to win. And if they match up with Chicago, yeah, Chicago's got some bucket getters. But Boston is, when you look at that starting five, when you look at what they've gotten from Pritchard off the bench and some of the production they've gotten from Al Horford, they're a better team. I think if Chicago ends up playing Boston, I'll be polite and say they lose in 5, but I think it's going to be a sweep.
It almost feels like when Chicago made it in 2021 and you knew they were going to bow out to Milwaukee, but they had just enough. They had that massive DeMar DeRozan game to take a game.
Right.
I feel like it's going to be like that same thing like you just explained, like maybe Kobe White goes off for 40 and DeMar goes off for 30 and they manage to steal a game. But if this game goes past 5, I'd be absolutely shocked, or this series for either side.
I tell you what, let it go past 5 and you get one of those weird series like remember back in the day when the Celtics had ran through everybody in the regular season with KD, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, and then they got into the first round against the Joe Johnson-led Hawks, and they were like, we're about to bust the Hawks up, and that turned into an epic 7-game series. If you don't respect your opponent and you come in there light, and if I've got one bug that I want to pick about the Celtics is too often their very best player doesn't display a killer instinct to just stomp you out and put an end to it. And if they give Chicago any kind of life and it becomes a series, all bets are off.
Yeah, that's my one beef with Jason Tatum. Clutch time shot selection is just so sketchy to me. I've never seen somebody rely so much on like sidestep threes when the going gets tough. Like he's right up there, almost with like watching prime James Harden in clutch time when he'd always step it back. This almost feels like Jason Tatum, except he's sidestepping instead of stepping back. So that's why I think the Porzingis was so huge for him this year, to kind of give him an option to calm the offense down and get an easy bucket from the post. And of course, speaking of big post players, 2-7, Knicks, 76ers. Mo, I really think that if he's healthy, I think the 76ers could beat the Knicks here. I think they could beat them before even a game 7. I think they could beat them in 6, honestly.
I'm not disagreeing. I said it on the morning show, but I guess my gut, you know, when you have time to reflect and you really think about it, I'm listening to the words that come out of my mouth. I don't believe he's healthy. I don't.
Yeah.
I know what I saw last night, and that's not healthy. That's he's good enough to play. That's not healthy. And I know you can make the argument even a lesser version of Embiid can make it a terrific series, maybe, but you can't rely on Nicholas Batum to hit 6 threes too every game. I think if Embiid is anything less than dominant, they're gonna lose. That's why I think that if he's not healthy, I don't believe he's healthy, which is why I think the Knicks are going to win the series. And here's the crazy part: when you watch the Knicks play offensively, when you watch what they do, they have one guy, Brett, one guy. I'm not exaggerating. One guy who can create off the bounce for himself and others. One guy. It's Brunson. That's it. Everybody else eats off of what Brunson does. So that tells me you're Nick Nurse. Do you blitz him and take the ball out of his hands and say, I'm going to live with anybody but Brunson doing what he wants in a one-on-one? I'm not going to let Brunson play one-on-one, right? I'm going to take that away from him and keep him off rhythm. Or you could go with another strategy. Let's get the ball to Maxey coming off pin downs or screen and rolls and have Maxey attack him, because Brunson's he's not a great defender. There's a couple of ways to attack him, and I think I would attack him on offense and make him work, because Brunson, like I said, he is their only shot creator. When he's off the floor, their offense goes completely stagnant. So while I think the Knicks are going to win, it's only because I don't believe Embiid is healthy. But I think if you look at the teams top to bottom, I'm talking about best player to best player. Is Brunson better than Maxey right now today? Yes. Will he be better than him next year? I have no idea, because Maxey's on the rise. If Embiid is anywhere near where he should be, yeah, I'm not going to argue with people that are voting for the Sixers. I'm just going with my gut. I see a guy who's not healthy, which is why I'm gonna say the Knicks find a way to win.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I can see both sides at this point, and it comes down to how does Embiid look game 1? Of course, maybe the true, and from the East, I even called this out. I'm not going to be biased. I said this is the series with the highest upset potential, the 3-6 seed, Bucks Pacers. I still believe in my squad. It's the playoffs. I got to support them. I'm going to go a little homer here. I still think Bucks in 6. I believe in my team still, but I'm not going to sit here and say this is the greatest matchup we could have asked for in the first round. Far from it. This is really a terrible matchup for us. So this is going to be a great test in the first round to see if we can overcome this hurdle.
The way I look at this series is real simple. Whoever controls pace, Milwaukee is a walk-it-up team who plays methodical half-court basketball. The Pacers play at a breakneck pace. If Milwaukee can control pace, if they can control the pace of the game, even without Giannis, I think Milwaukee will ultimately get off to a good start. If you told me, well, Giannis will be back in game 2, Mo, and he'll be at about 90%, and we make Indiana execute and beat us with their half court sets. If they can slow Indiana down, I'm with you. I think that's the path forward to winning this series. The only question is, can they slow them down? And I can only go off of what I've seen. I've seen them play each other in the play-in, or not the play-in, but the midseason tournament. I've seen them match up in the regular season, and Milwaukee has struggled to slow down. And here's the thing: much like New York, everything the Pacers do is predicated off of what Halliburton does. So somebody at the point of attack has got to get into Halliburton's space and cut him off from getting downhill. And I know that's easier said than done. And I know when you watch him play, he doesn't look like he's 6'7", but he's a legit 6'7". So I'm gonna say I'm gonna pick the Pacers only because, one, I don't even know if Giannis is playing, because when you're talking about a calf injury, that's a muscle, and muscles they heal a lot slower than bones do. So I don't know. I do know that if I'm Bucks management and they're telling me it's tender or he's not 100%, honestly, I'm not even playing the guy. I'm not playing him because I saw what happened to KD when they said he had a calf problem. He had a calf. I saw, and they rushed him back, and then they went from a calf to the out and out ACL tear. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Uh, I I hope Giannis listens to his doctors, because he's a warrior, right? He's one of those kind of guys that, oh no, I feel great. I feel great. Nah, I need, if I'm a doctor, I'm like, you say you feel great, but we're gonna do a couple of MRIs. I need to see that you're great. So I hope he can play, because you don't want one of the game's signature players not to be able to perform. Because if he plays, even though Indiana's a big challenge, I think Milwaukee finds a way to win a 6-game series if you have a healthy Giannis. But if he's not healthy, if he's labored or anything other than what he normally is, I think Milwaukee will pull it out, but I don't think they blow the doors off the Bucks. I think this is a long series, left or right. I think it's a 6-game series at least, and if it goes 7, that's a win for the fans.
So Alex, it sounds like Giannis will be back in the first round. That's what the reports are saying. But I agree, Mo. At this point, it's going to be up to management. It's going to be up to the doctors to hold them out, because you leave it up to Giannis, he's going to be out there game one,
Right, right.
100% or not. So I just hope that the doctors and team doctors are going to override him at this point and be like, hey, you need to sit out if you need to. Like, if the Bucks win game one, don't play him game two. If they go up 2-0, don't even bother playing him game three.
Right, right. If they
Like,
if they can get up on them without him, we're gonna rest him as long as we can, right? Like if we go up 2-0 and then the Pacers win game 3, then we're gonna say, hey Giannis, you ready to go for game 4? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like and are they capable? Yes. If Dame is aggressive and he shows up, you still have Bobby Portis, you still got Brooke Lopez, you have people that can get baskets. Even though he's not all-star Chris Middleton, I still think Middleton can get you buckets and facilitate. I'm I'm not saying by any means that I think that the Pacers walk in there and they win 4-0 or 4-5-1 or 4-1. I just think that it literally comes down to the pace. If you play at their pace, you're in trouble. If they play at your pace, they're in trouble.
No, I agree with that. And this last matchup, it's intriguing to me, but it's not. Like, so we have Cavs in Orlando, and if there's one team I don't like watching in a playoff setting, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers, because Donovan Mitchell's always fun, right? The guard play is always fun. The issue is you have to watch the other three guys try to do anything on offense. I watched Evan Mobley brick like point blank shot after point blank shot last year. And Jared Allen can't get clean looks because Evan Mobley's standing in the paint, and nobody else can get clean looks between the guards. I'm going to choose the Magic here. I think they pull it out in 6, and maybe even sooner. I really do not like this Cavs construction in the playoffs, and I think after this year they're going to have to move on from Jared Allen or Evan Mobley. Pick your poison.
I feel like since he's been with the Cavs, and I think what is this, Mobley's second year or third year?
Third, I believe.
He looks like the same player that he was in year one, in year three. And by the way, that's not a bad player. It's a good player, but you would have thought there would be an elevation and a development where you're like, he's going from being a good player to taking that next step to being an all-star, from being an all-star to being maybe an all NBA performer. And he seems to have plateaued at being a guy. And by the way, this is not a me putting him down. If I told you, hey Mo, I got this young guy that's 21, 22 to get you 16 points, 9 rebounds, a block a game, shoots a high percentage. Would you take him? Absolutely. I'm just saying that right now, I don't see a young man who's destined to be a star. And maybe that's because he needs a change of scenery. I look at Cleveland and we talk about this. They have spacing issues when they play those two guys together. And when you run a screen and roll with Mobley or with Allen, the defense is they're smart to play drop coverage because you know neither one of them can shoot. You know they're zero range players. The Cavs have streaky guys coming off the bench. Karis LeVert can get you 30 one night, and then for the rest of the series, he might not get you 10 collectively. He can just disappear. What I know is this: Cleveland, I think they rank 23rd in the league in pace, which means they walk it up for whatever reason, which I don't think is smart. But the Magic rank like 26th in pace. They walk it up, and they have nothing but they have mostly young guys on their team. The Magic are kind of a lot like the Timberwolves, that they want to play at a slow pace. They want to make it a grind and make it about defense. I think the Magic win too, Brett. And I'm gonna say something out of pocket. I think the best player in that series is going to be Paolo Banchero, not Spider Mitchell. I think it's going to be Paolo.
I think that I could absolutely see that. And one other thing that I really like about the Magic is I think they'll have the best defensive player in that series. He plays limited minutes, but let me tell you that Jonathan Isaac is a legitimate defensive player of the year caliber talent on that end. What really drove me insane watching that Bucks Magic game in the last game of the season was Dame is so used to calling for the pick and roll and switching and then trying to attack the mismatch. But I'm watching him over and over again, switching Jonathan Isaac onto himself and then trying to attack. I'm like, what are you doing? There's a reason you're 1 of 11 right now. Stop it. This is never going to work. He is insanely talented on the defensive end. And if you put him in the game with two non-shooters and kind of let him play free safety, he's going to absolutely muck up the Cavs offense, and he could very well be the most impactful player in that series.
I don't disagree. I think that one, I'm happy for Jonathan Isaac because obviously his career got off to a rocky start with the injuries. Maybe he doesn't end up being the star that people thought he would be, but maybe he ends up being one of the best defensive players because he's had to modify and change his game. I'm with you. I think he's underrated defensively. Like he should be on one of the all NBA defensive teams, but I don't know if he's going to get consideration. By the way, Brett, his teammate, Jalen Suggs, he should be consideration for all NBA defense. They can get after you defensively, man. So I'm just saying, yes, they struggle on offense at times, but when you can get stops and when you win 50-50, and they win most 50-50, I think Orlando's going to find a way to win this series. And when they win this series, I think the Cavs are going to make wholesale changes.
When I first saw Kendrick Perkins all defensive second team ballot that he put in, because he posted it on Twitter, and he put Pods on there from the Golden State Warriors, and it threw me for a loop. And the first thing that came into mind, I was like, you just have no idea how good Jalen Suggs has been this year. Like, to me, Jalen Suggs should make an all-defensive team this year. He's been that impactful from the guard spot. He's been absolutely incredible. He's active hands. He gets every loose ball. Like, to me, that was so disrespectful to keep him out for Pods. And I have nothing against Pods.
I like Pods.
Great, but to say that he was better than Suggs on defense, come on now.
I think Perkins is confusing trying hard on defense versus actually being really good on defense. Like Pods, he busts his hump defensively. He don't stop anybody, but he works hard. I see Jalen Suggs disrupt guys. I see Jalen Suggs alter guys and frustrate guys because he actually does film study of where they want to catch the ball, their dominant hand, what to attack, how they come off ball screens. Like Jalen Suggs is a I'll go you a step further. I'm a big Drew Holiday fan. You know this. They're probably going to make Drew Holiday first team All NBA defense. I think Jalen Suggs should get Drew Holiday's spot. And I like Drew Holiday, but I think Jalen Suggs should be first team All NBA defense.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even have a problem with that if they bumped Drew to second team. They've both been phenomenal defensively, but
yeah,
Suggs has been next level. When the Magic put Suggs and Isaac on the court at the same time, it just seems like nobody scores on that team at that point. Speaking of awards, Mo, I figured it'd be a lot of fun real quick if we, went down the list and set our pick for some of these awards that are going to be coming out.
I'm here for it.
Now, I think there are 3 that are pretty easy so far that we'll start with, get those out of the way. Do you have anybody besides Victor Wembanyama for Rookie of the Year?
No. I do not. I do not.
All due respect to Chet Holmgren, Wemby did something that we don't see. He took like a next level leap in the middle of the season. Like, that's something you don't see. He went from like a top 50 player to almost like a top 20 player in the span of like a month. And it was an incredible transformation.
I was actually impressed. He got better as the season went on. And I actually thought it would work the other way around for him, that the length of an NBA season, the physicality of the game would wear on him, and he actually got better. So, look, this is not to say that Chet isn't deserving of an accolade of recognition of how good he is. He's going to make all rookie first team, no doubt about it, but it's not even close. This is Wemby by a landslide.
Yeah, I made that same prediction because I saw that thing happen to Porzingis where the season went along as the season went on outwards. It happened with Luka the first couple of years, so I thought Victor was going to just fall apart at the end of the year. Not fall apart, but just struggle. Yeah, all the credit in the world to him, so congratulations to him in advance on his Rookie of the Year. MVP. I think this is Jokic's to lose at this point. All respect to Shea and what he's done. It just feels like Jokic has this on lock already.
Yeah, and I get where the people who are voting for SGA, I'm not hating on those people. I don't think he's a wrong choice. The guy's averaging 30 points a game. I think he gives you 6 assists, 2 steals. He's actually a terrific two-way player. But the defending champions come back, and all they did was come back with everybody coming after them being hunted, not to mention all the injuries they've had. They're the second seed in the West, and I'm looking at Joker's season and the season that he had, and I think he's still the best player in the NBA. And even though SGA and his squad have the best record, it's not where there's this huge separation. Is Joker the best player in basketball? Yes. A lot of people love SGA, but what I've never heard anybody say is that he's the best player in basketball.
Yeah, I agree. All the credit in the world. Great season, SGA. Awesome. You deserve to be in the MVP race, but unfortunately, it sounds like that Joker dude is going to take it from you this year, and he probably got a couple more coming down the pipeline before he hangs it up, which is insane to think about.
Brett, he's scary. He's real scary because his game isn't predicated off of freakish athleticism. So, like Tim Duncan, I think Joker's going to age like a fine wine.
No, that is absolutely for sure. Got MVP. Oh, and of course, Defensive Player of the Year. I love what Wemby's done, but I think they're going to give it to Rudy Gobert. I think you can easily make an argument that Wemby was better defensively. I think the argument is there, but I really already feels like Rudy has this one locked up, and that's not a knock on Rudy. Trying to say that Victor is better than them. They're both phenomenal. Rudy Gobert, once again, he transformed what shouldn't have been that great of a defensive squad to a top 10 one. So his impact is overwhelmingly dominant as it is every year on the defensive end of the ball.
I think Gobert is going to be defensive player of the year as well. Um, I I so before the season started, I said Wemby's going to lead the league in block shots. I knew that, and he led the league in block shots. But he led the league in block shots on a team that was basically getting waxed every night. Wemby's going to win Defensive Player of the Year plenty times, Brett. But I don't feel I just don't think this was his year. Defensive Player of the Year, don't just look at block shots. Like Gobert's impact is look at all the shots that he changed at the rim, all the plays that he altered at the rim. And not to mention the biggest component of playing defense to end a possession, it's rebounding. He's a terrific defensive rebounder as well, a good offensive rebounder. I think Rudy Gobert deserves to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think Wemby's second. I actually think Anthony Davis is third, in my opinion. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I don't got a problem with AD being third in that category. He's been phenomenal too all year. Now here's the ones that aren't quite locked up, which are fun to think about. Most improved. The odds-on favorite is Tyrese Maxey,
That's a good one.
but this might not be the more popular pick, but I think Kobe White's taken a bigger jump than Tyrese Maxey this year. I don't think there's a wrong answer, but if I had to vote for most improved player, I would give it to Kobe White.
I'm a fan of both. I'm a bigger fan of Maxey, but I think you're right. Just being fair and seeing the leap that Kobe White made. And by the way, if he doesn't make that leap, God knows where Chicago would have been record wise. He's been phenomenal. Like I've seen a lot of players do a Euro step, Brett. Kobe White does something completely different. Like he's invented his own version of it. When he goes to the basket, he looks more like Barry Sanders evading linebackers than he does a guard penetrating. Like he's got a lot of wiggle in his game, and the kid is not lacking for confidence. So I'm with you. We might be wrong, but I'm picking Kobe White for most improved player.
That's hey, I'm always down with that. And then next is Sixth Man of the Year. Now, the odds-on favorite is Naz Reid. I think the winner of this was going to be Malik Monk before the injury.
Yeah.
I think Naz does end up winning it. I think it's well-deserved. I think, my boy over in Milwaukee, Bobby Portis, should be getting more love for this award than he has. So shout out to Bobby. He's been phenomenal this year as a sixth man, but I think overall, I think this is Naz Reid's award, and I think it's well deserved.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think when I look at your Bucks, could you make a case that outside of Giannis, that Bobby Portis has been their second most consistent player?
Oh, yeah, no, easily.
Yeah, I know they've had somewhat of a disappointing season, but you still have to look at the impact that this man has when he comes off the bench. And a lot of times he's got to come in and be like a fringe starter, right? When somebody goes down and he just puts up numbers. I don't have a problem with Naz Reid winning. So this is not me going against Naz Reid. I would just say I'm looking at Bobby Portis and his numbers didn't go down. The productivity didn't go down. What he does defensively, I just think that it's close to me. And I know people get caught up in what's going on in the moment. And look, to Naz Reid's credit, he came back from an injury and had a terrific season. And he changed his game. He was more of a mid-range shooter, a little bit in the post. He extended his range. He's become an effective three-point shooter. So I don't think there's a wrong answer. I'm with you. I'll go Naz Reid as well. But I think that Bobby Portis, he's a close second, a very close second.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And then, of course, I think Coach of the Year.
That's a good one.
To me, that is a good one. I can never pronounce his name. I know exactly who I want. Yeah.
OKC's coach?
I think it's going to come down to either OKC's coach. Yeah, I think he's going to be the winner.
I can't say the name either. I don't want to rip it up trying to say it. With all due respect,
It's the last name. It's Mark. I just don't know how to pronounce his last name. Mark. Yeah, I don't even want to try to pronounce it, but I think Thunder head coach wins it all. Also, special shout out to Jamal Mosley with the Magic too. He's had a phenomenal year.
that's a good one. Yes, give him some love and some flowers. He's done a lot with that young team. I would like to give some credit to Mike Malone. I know you can say, well, he's coaching the defending champions, right? But do you know how hard it is to have the high of winning it all, coming back, and now you're the hunted? A lot of teams, they regress because they're still on that championship high. I think Mike Malone has done a great job of keeping the Nuggets focused. So I don't think he's going to win it. I think that I'm going to call him Mr. Mark. I think Mr. Mark, all due respect, is going to win Coach of the Year. He's very deserving. But we have some terrific coaches in the NBA, and I just said Mike Malone is one of them, and I want to give him some flowers for being the coach that he is. Like, there's some for every time that we look at a coach and go, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? There's some guys out there where you go, like, this guy's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. So look, shout out to Mike Malone. But Mr. Mark is going to be coach of the year. Trust me.
Fair. And normally I wouldn't mess around with executive of the year because normally it's really difficult to figure that one out. But I think this one's really easy. All the credit in the world to Brad Stevens over in Boston for bringing in Porzingis and Holiday and pretty much doing that while keeping the team together. Normally, when you make big moves like that, you see the team get blown up, but he pretty much is able to keep everybody that was, important to the team last year while adding Holiday and Porzingis. So
yeah, that's crazy. You know what? I feel like before Danny Ainge left, he left like a black book for Brad Stevens to follow because I feel like he went to the Danny Ainge school of how to maneuver roster and cap space. That, like, when I looked at Boston, you told me, well, Jaylen Brown's got a $300 million contract. There's no way they're going to be able to bring in impactful players because of the salary cap. And yeah, you bring in a Drew Holiday, and then you get the move for Porzingis, and I'm like, man, Brad Stevens is making all the right moves. You look at that team, and I don't think nobody would argue they have the best starting five in basketball.
yeah, I'm thinking though this is going to be a tough offseason for them. I think this is the year where they're going to have they might have to move on from Derek White this year.
Well,
Because
yeah.
there's only so much cap maneuvering you can do, and with the Drew Holiday extension, Porzingis signed an extension, and of course Tatum has going to have one coming up. I think.
Oh my God, Brown's 300 million. Tatum's going to be around 350 or more.
That's crazy. So I think after the Tatum deal, I think that's when you got to pick. Like, all right, well, somebody's going to have to go, and I think it's going to end up being Derek White.
Which means this particular season, Brett, all the more reason that they have to win it this year, right? They have to win it this year because next season will be beginning of making some hard choices, like we can't keep Derek White, or maybe we can't keep Derek White or Al Horford, right? Like, they're going to have to make some tough roster decisions because they're going to have to come around and give Tatum a contract that will be that much bigger than Brown's. You're going to have two guys on your roster that have over $650 million tied up between them. The Celtics after this season, they won't look the same.
I agree. Yeah, they say we're gonna hop into your segment, Mo. Do better with Mo better. Now, it's gonna skip on puppy prospects this week because I wanted to focus more on playoffs this week. So I wanted to say congratulations to all the women that got drafted this past Monday in the WNBA. Awesome! I'm so happy for all of you. Great job, guys, and I cannot wait to watch you next year on League Pass.
Same. So for the section this particular week with the Do Better, I know that we see these memes that come up all the time, right? And they'll show what Caitlin Clark is making for her salary, and then they'll show an NBA player's salary, right? And I get it. I am 100% on board with the WNBA players wanting and deserving more compensation, more money. But like Chris and I discussed on the morning show, you're trying to get money from a pie that's $60 million in revenue. That is your total revenue that you brought in as a. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's great, and you're going to grow even more when Caitlin Clark comes in. Your attendance is going to go through the roof. So this year will be a banner year, but I just don't want them getting caught up in the, well, Jaylen Brown makes $300 million. His WNBA comp would be this player, but she only makes $100,000. I understand that, and I'm with you. But here's the difference: Jaylen Brown is getting his piece of the pie from a pie that's like $8 billion wide versus $60 million. That's the reason why. As popular as the WNBA seems to be becoming and it being on the rise, it is still so far away from having the reach, the attendance, the ratings that the NBA have. It's going to be a minute. I think you ladies' time is coming, and I do believe your league can do so much better in terms of promoting your stars. They need to promote your stars like the NBA promotes its stars. It's a star-driven league. I believe your league should be the same way. And if they do it the right way in this moment right now, when Caitlin Clark and the universe revolves around her and some of the other talented young ladies that were just drafted, everybody will get a bigger slice of the pie. I think your contracts will go up. There will be more money. There will be more revenue sharing. So I don't want to use the term be patient, but I'll just say you ladies' times, it's coming. I just don't want to get you. I don't want you to get caught up in looking at what the NBA players make, because you are talking about a league that's been around a lot longer, that's been a lot more established. You got to give yourself, just be patient. Just be patient. It's coming.
If I were to compare the WNBA to the NBA, it really feels like the WNBA is almost hitting that 1980s period where they weren't making a lot, but, Bird and Magic just entered the league. WNBA players, their contracts aren't as high relative to NBA players, but their version of, Bird and Magic or MJ just entered the league or close to it. And that, like Caitlin Clark just entered the league. Angel Reese could very well play foil to Caitlin Clark for years. She went to a very good Chicago Sky team who also got Camilla with the 3 pick. So
Correct.
I think that it's coming. Like you said, it's coming. I feel like we're starting to enter that golden period, and this almost feels like similar to what happened in the 80s with the NBA, where everything skyrocketed. And I think that's coming up next with the TV deal in 2025, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, and Brett, you watch the women's game probably as much, if not more, than I do. Here's the thing: I already know that your product is high quality. I would make an argument when it comes to fundamentals. When you watch the way the basketball is played, the WNBA fundamentals, they seem to be more fundamentally sound overall than the NBA game. The NBA game, more times than not, you're either shooting a three or you're at the rim dunking the ball. That's pretty much it. Do I think your product is on par? Absolutely. And like Brett said, your Magic Johnson or your Larry Bird, I think that moment is right now, which means in 2-3 years from now, I think your contracts, the money that you make, is not going to double, it's going to triple. It is coming, ladies. It's coming. Trust me, and you deserve it.
Yeah, my do better moment. We already kind of touched on him earlier, but I'm going to do it again, Mo. My do better moment is just Trae Young. If I watched that game without any context, I would think it was preseason. He looked like Darvin Ham out there, hands in his pockets. He really wasn't doing anything on defense, and he was just foul baiting to oblivion, which he got 11 free throws. It's fine, but it also, when he didn't get those fouls, it led to some of the ugliest shots I've ever seen. He just threw off the entire offensive flow. I just think, we talked about it earlier, so I won't go too deep into it, but Trey just needs to start working on that shot selection and focusing on the little things, but there's just no way that can be your effort level in an elimination, win or go home game. It was absolutely pathetic. And I really want to see him do better. Just more energy, more effort across the board into that kind of scenario. It was just hard to watch.
I'm with you 100%, partner. Watching Trae Young in a do or die situation give the effort that he gave, it was disappointing. And if there's any Hawks fan out there or Trae fan out there, I'm not saying that he's not talented or what he could be or what he should be. I'm just saying you can have an awful night shooting, but you can still compete. You cannot be a great defender, but you can try your best. You can do better. If you can't guard well, then take a hard foul. Let him take the ball out and reset. And just all I'm saying is compete as hard defensively as you do offensively when you're launching all those shots up. That's all I'm saying. I have no problem with a guy that takes 20 plus shots if I know that he's on the other end of the court busting his tail doing everything he can defensively as well. That's me. I think I'm with you though on Trae Young, and this is not the N1 Kill Trae Young show. It's nothing like that. We're simply pointing out what we saw in that play-in game last night. Like, if you're a Hawks fan, would you not have wanted more of an effort like what Kobe White gave Chicago, or even if throw Kobe White out of it? I would have been good if Trae Young had done what DeMar DeRozan did, that kind of game. I think DeMar finished with 20 plus points. He had 9 assists. Like, he moved the ball. He found the open man. He got other people involved. There are so many ways to impact the game other than scoring. I feel like Trae Young, though, only believes in that way in terms of impact. I don't think I've ever seen Trae Young set a pick. I'm sure he has, but I've never seen him do it.
That's a fair point. And yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about, Mo? Because that's all the topics I had for us today.
No, this was fun because usually we do a little bit of nuance. We go back in the day, but we really locked in on what's going on in the East and in the West. We made our picks for the series, and we're going to live with them. So I enjoyed the show. I appreciate everybody that took the time to join me and Brett tonight for another episode of the N1 podcast powered by the Wire to Wire Network. Look, I want to remind you guys, and I always say this is my thing, we're growing. The N1 podcast Facebook page, the Discord is growing. The Wire to Wire Network is growing. We're doing it because of you guys. Your support, your shares, your follows, your subs, you're getting with your friends getting with their friends, and looking at our content is why we're growing. And we appreciate you guys so much. So thank you, and just make sure you tune in to all the great content that we're putting out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Next week we'll break down some more play-in game or playoff games, and we'll go from there. It'll be a great time. We hope to see you all next week, and please enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page, and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.